Welcome to the Fight with Teddy Atlas, presented by Dynamic Striking. I'm Ken Rideout, joined as always by the legend Teddy Atlas. Teddy, how you doing?
Happy Halloween. How you doing?
I was going to say to you, happy belated Halloween.
Hey, yeah, if anybody didn't get their, sufficient sugar intake yesterday, come on over. Come on over. I'm happy to share, even with some of you goblins out there. Yeah, there's a few out there, Ken.
No shortage of goblins.
There's a couple ghouls and goblins out there, but we try to treat everybody well. And so I have some stuff for you if you guys were left out. And I know that it must have been great over at the Rideout residence in Tennessee. It must have been a great day going around. I know it was great with me with my grandchildren, but it must have been great also over there. I heard, unfortunately, that you treated everyone, as you always do, really great, except the people that turned up as Brady masks. I heard they didn't get the greatest. Suddenly you ran out of candy.
Those people got candy. The people I really like got athletic greens. You already know it. My favorite supplement under the sun. If there's one thing that I take every day, Teddy, it's athletic greens. We'll come back to them.
That's why you're doing so well. That's why you're looking so good.
That's why I'm not the most popular guy in the neighborhood with the kids.
Well, you're looking good and you're getting ready. It's a perfect spot for me to remember, because I had it in my mind to say good luck in the New York Marathon you have coming up. I know you're in training for that. You just came off of the London Marathon, which you came in second in your age group in the World Championships, which, again, I'm very proud of you. And I know you're ready for the New York Marathon, which is huge. Yep. And, I tell you, you've run more marathons than these freaking fighters fights. I mean, if some of these fighters, especially the champions, if they would defend their titles, if they would be as active, half as active as you are, forget about it. I mean, they'd be like, they'd never relinquish their title. Let me shut off this fax machine just to prove that I am old school. I have a very good fax machine, very determined. It doesn't shut off so easily. You people out there, I feel bad for you. You have to email, you have to do computer stuff, all that. Not me. Fax machine, and very determined. Very determined. You shut it off, it comes back on. Yeah, good luck in the New York Marathon. I know you're getting ready. I know you got plenty of sugar for your, if you need a little boost. Obviously, the timing has been perfect as far as throwing that in. But yeah, I did hear that there was a few Brady masks that showed up, and they're going to be in. Their health is going to be better. Their diet is going to be better, but they weren't real happy. I mean, athletic greens is great. They were looking for something less great, a little bit more sugary, but I understand. And by the way, you have to be happy with the way your Patriot team is performing. I'm going to go back from a week ago when I said they could win the division, and then you reminded me that Buffalo was in the division, and then I backtracked. I said, all right, maybe next year, but they're going to have a shot for the wild card. They're a team on the come. They're a team that's improving all the time. This quarterback is the real deal that my son said was the real deal coming out when he was evaluating all the quarterbacks coming out last year. And you know what? I'm going to say that I'm on the right track here. And I'm going to go back now and say, maybe they don't have to wait till next year. Maybe they're going to overcome Buffalo. Buffalo lost the game, and the Patriots are right on their heels. The Patriots are an improving team. They're good.
They still got 2 against Buffalo in like 6 weeks and 8 weeks. They got them at home and then 2 weeks later away. So that's going to be an entertaining matchup for sure.
No, it's going to be great. Listen, I really like the acquisitions they made, the drafts they made. Of course, you still got Belichick. I didn't see too many Belichick masks out there. Nobody seems to want to. That's kind of like, that's kind of like wearing the Grinch mask around Christmas. You know what I mean? Like, he's great. Don't get me wrong, but not too many people want to see a guy.
He's not exactly a barrel of laughs.
No, he's not. He certainly is not. But anyway, good to see you. Good luck in that marathon. Tell me a little bit about how many people are you in a separate category in the New York Marathon? How's that work?
There's like 50,000 total. Wow. But I will race in the obviously I'll be in my own age group. I will be trying to obviously win that, but there's a masters division too, 40 and over, that I would love to win that as well. So you just never know who's going to show up. There could be some like current pros that just turned 40, Bernard Lagat. There's a bunch of guys that are like legit, like professional marathon runners. But if those guys don't show up, I don't think any age groupers over 40 are going to beat me.
No, I don't either, but I'm going to go back and jump on you a little bit. You're part of my team over here. You don't say if they don't show up. Let them show up. Let them show up. Let them show up. Invite them to show up. Bring them, because we're still going to beat them. We're going to take them on. We're going to give everything we can. And you know what? My money's on you. My money's on you and Athletic Teddy. Greens and Swedish fish. I've been eating a lot of Swedish fish because my grandson, God bless him. I got two beautiful grandsons and one beautiful granddaughter. And the one that's here living with me, my grandson who's 4 years old, little Joseph, and little Teddy is in Vegas, of course, and little Mara is here with me too. And I tell you, he's going up to houses, and I'm everyone's grandson, they loves them and loves their grandparents. I get it. I'm not unique, but it feels so special and it feels unique when your grandson goes up and they come out with the basket of candy and he looks through it for Swedish fish and he says, "I'm getting these for my papa. He likes these."
That's nice.
That is that's like winning a world title. It doesn't get much better than that. So take me where we're gonna go there, Kenneth.
All right, we got to make up ground. We got to go back 2 weeks. Shakur Stevenson gets the win over Jermell Herring, probably as expected. Yeah. The young up-and-comer takes out the old lion. Felt terrible for Jermell Herring. I love him. He's such a nice guy. But Shakur Stevenson put it on him pretty good. Maybe Jermell won a round here or there. I'd be hard-pressed to find more than 1 or 2 rounds to give to Jermell. And finally, Shakur stopped him in the 10th round. A lot of talking in the build-up to this one that I didn't really appreciate from Shakur. I thought it was a bad matchup for Jermell anyway. I get it. You want to get inside the guy's head. But they come from the same camp, more or less. They're all kind of in that little circle with Andre Ward, our friend Bud Crawford. So it was a little bit upsetting to see him talk so much crap about Jermell Herring, who's not that kind of person, but it looks like they brushed it all under the rug after the fight. But tell me what you saw in that one. What'd you like?
Oh, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Herring is just taking nothing away from Shakur, the kind of human being he is. We know a little bit more, at least I feel we do, about Herring. He's a former Marine. I shouldn't even say former Marine. Marines say there's never former. You're a Marine. You're a Marine for life. So he's a Marine. He was Olympic representative as Shakur was. Shakur actually won a silver medal. Herring is I think a poster child for everything that's good about boxing. I mean, he's that kind of human being, and hopefully Shakur can do that too, and emulate that, and be that kind of person, and be that kind of example, that kind of leader, that kind of, if you want to get out there, that kind of role model. I know they don't have a responsibility. I remember Charles Barkley saying that many years ago. They don't have a responsibility to be a role model, but you know what? They are within their circles of the sport that kids happen to follow. And the kids that follow boxing and see a young Shakur who won a silver medal, he just might be a role model. for them. So I wish him as much luck with that as I do in the ring. I had picked, we had talked about this about a month ago, and we covered it real quick about a month ago. And I had picked Shakur. It wasn't a tough pick, but I had picked him to win. He was obviously younger, bigger, just had a little bit more size to him, physicality to him. Neither one of them are huge punchers, and Shakur definitely isn't. But he was I felt that he was bigger, faster, younger, and I guess better. It was the perfect example of there was nothing really that Herring could do that Stevenson couldn't do better.
Yeah.
And it really felt that way. It felt preordained. It felt like I knew who was going to win before it was over. And part of that feeling was, quite frankly, again, we don't mask things so we feel it's the truth, to be on somebody's good side. Who gives a frick about being on someone's good side? How about being on the right side and tell the truth, no matter what? How about that? So I just felt that part of that feeling was enhanced by the commentators. That if you listen to the commentator, there was no reason to watch the fight. I mean, you know who was going to win. I mean, you talk about getting preferential treatment. He got that. He got that. I mean, obviously, we know one of the broadcasters you just touched on it, Andre Ward, manages as part of the management team, advisory team, management team for Shakur. Well, it sure as hell felt that way. Again, it just felt that everything was on. Herring really, truly was fighting an uphill battle. Everything was against him. Everything. And listen, I'm going to say things that maybe some people get brainwashed a little bit, because when you listen to the commentator and they're only saying one thing, sometimes you do, through osmosis, you get brainwashed a little bit, you get hypnotized a little bit, and you might think that it was, it was just one guy in the ring. But it wasn't. I want to say that might have been the best performance I ever saw Herring in. Yeah. Because what he was up against, as I just described, he was outgunned, but he behaved like a champion and like a Marine, quite frankly. He didn't go away. And he forced Stevenson to up his game. He forced him to up his game. Stevenson's a talented kid. He's not a big puncher, but he's got talent in all the other areas. And technically knows what he's doing. The people doing a good job with him. Physically, he's got the talent, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, you're attached to your temperament. His temperament is to be cautious. His temperament is not to be Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, gunslingers. Leonard was a guy looking to grab your soul. Yeah, he had that great smile. He had the 7-Up commercial. He was great. He was great, and great talent, and there were great fighters around, much better fighters, in that era, in the 80s. Not that there's not good fighters today, but there were special fighters in those days, and more special was they fought each other. But Leonard, what made him different and special was his talent, everything that I just talked about, but he wanted to grab your soul. He wanted to freaking like a kung fu guy. He wanted to go right through your chest and pull your freaking heart out. I mean, at the end of the day, he had that part to him. Yeah, with the nice, beautiful, teeth, smiling and everything else. You might not have thought that. With the beautiful talent, you might not have thought that. It was that. That's what made him so free. Ask Tommy Hearns in their first fight. That's what made him so special. And I just felt that Herring forced Shakur the closest he's been forced to come a little bit out of his safety zone, because his temperament is to be careful. He's got all that talent, but he fights safe. And he fights cautious, and he doesn't go to that next place. Shakur was forced by Herring to go to that next place. I'm not sure he quite went to that next place that I envision as that next place when I talk about guys like Leonard and those kind of guys. But he went to a further place than he had been before. He went out of his comfort zone. He did a little more because he's a guy who usually does just enough to get by. And people could knock me all they want and say, oh, Teddy, it's enough to win. I got you. But it's probably not enough to have a documentary made about him the way it was made about Sugar Ray and Tommy Hearns and Duran and Marvin Hagler back in the 80s. Probably not. And why? Because he doesn't go and take your soul. Because he doesn't regularly look to go through the house and into the rooms that are empty, that nobody goes into. Leonard and those guys went through the freaking house. They went through the freaking house and they went in every freaking room. And he only goes to the rooms he has to go to. And that has showed. That's why I'm talking about this. That is really, to me, the heart of the conversation when it comes to Shakur. That will he be willing to go to that place? And again, I'm sure there's a listener to that commentary. Yeah, he went there. He went to Mount Everest. He didn't go to Mount Everest. But he did go to a further place, and I give him credit for that, and I'm giving him credit for that. And that's what I'm looking for with a guy like him, to use all that talent, and use more than the physical talent, to use that other special, that whether you want to call it character, whether you want to call it something that's in your craw, that you just want to find out. You want to find out how damn far I can go. You want to find out what the air really does breathe like, feel like at the highest altitudes out there. So he went a little further, and he was forced to go a little further by Herring. And I want to applaud Herring. I just applauded Stevenson in the way I feel was fitting. I want to applaud Herring. I don't think that fight should have been stopped. Nobody argued it. I get it, but I don't think it should have been stopped. Do I think he was going to wind up winning the fight? No. But I felt that he was still doing everything to be in the fight. And I just felt that the whole night he didn't really get his due. You know, you can lose and still get your freaking due. You know? And Sugar Ray Leonard proved that, since I'm talking about Leonard, who I love so much. He got that when he lost. He lost to Duran in the first fight. He got his due for the way he fought. For the way he fought, for the heart he showed, for the bravery he showed, for the chances he took. You know, everything. And of course he changed that up in his second fight, the No Mas fight. And obviously it served him. But that first fight is where he really won fans that he hadn't won with just his talent. He won a lot of people with the Olympic gold and with the talent, the golden boy, but there were fans out there still wanted to be won over by how he would behave when the time came, as their feeling of being a champion, their feeling of being a fighter. And I know it's wrong sometimes. Who says you can't counterpunch? Who says you can't be like Shakur and be smart and be... that's what you want. That's what a good trainer wants. Of course. That's what I want. But yours will want to just know that, well, that's driving a car in the trunk. In the trunk of the car is that guy. You just want to know that. And Leonard showed you that. Leonard made fans in that first Duran fight trust him, that they feel like, I can trust this guy. He's more than good looks. He's more than just God-given talent. You know, he's more than just a guy who got more than we got, you know, when it came to the talent pool and what the genetic pool. He's more than that. He's a guy who also will reach down. which we have to do every freaking day. You know, that's yeah, and they want to see that with Shakur, I think, with that talent, and they got a little bit of a peek that he is capable and willing to go that little extra, but Herring was the guy who made him go that extra, which a lot of people probably didn't think he would have to make him, or he would make him go that extra. And again, Herring is, I think he beats a lot of guys that night, other than Shakur, that night.
I agree.
I think it was his best performance ever. I know what I'm saying, even though he lost. I get it. That's it, Ken. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yep. I'm in full agreement. Let's jump over to the all-action UFC, where there's very few mismatches, but one of the first right out the gate was an absolute beatdown by Islam Makhachev on Dan Hooker, the sturdy and dependable Dan Hooker, who's been in with a bunch of guys and as tough as they come. And oh my God, Teddy, it looked like a knife through hot butter. He ran him right over, submitted him. I mean, it was ruthless. He looks unstoppable at 155. Dying to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, listen, I can't argue with anything you just said, Ken. And but I will say Hooker's a guy who, you know, is, I don't know if he's shop one but he is that great rock. But the great rock that keeps getting banged at. And when it's banged at that often, it starts to chip. It starts to chip a little bit. You know, he's been getting banged at. And he's that great rock, and he represents everything you said. A test to this kid, a guy who's reliable, a guy who's a monster when it comes to heart, and, you know, dealing with what he has to deal with and finding a way. But he has been a rock that's been getting banged at, and starts to chip a little bit. But the first thing I think about Islam, I think about Khabib, because he's from that stable, he's from that part of the world, he's from that mindset, he's from that teaching, he's from that style, and I think you have to mention it because it shows, number one, but it shows in more than physical traits and physical ways, where you see the way he does his thing, where he does his business, you know, in the way that he does it. It's the way he carries himself. It's almost like there's an air that was with Khabib. Khabib was more than just a great wrestler and a great UFC fighter and a great champion. He had gotten to that almost mystical place where, as hard as these guys are to intimidate, Khabib got to a place where he influenced them in a negative. I'm not going to say intimidate because these guys are what they are, but he got to a place where he influenced them negatively in mental areas. Khabib that was part of his power. I know it was his wrestling and his strength and all those things, and the technique and the confidence, the belief that he had. His upbringing with his father, the training methods, you know, his destiny, what was driven into him to be his destiny. Kind of like a Tiger Woods by his father, that he's going to be the greatest golfer, you know, or Lomachenko by his father, that you're going to be the greatest fighter. From an early point, his father drove that into him. And when he got in the ring, it was more than just his physical, technical talent. It got to the place, Ken, where Khabib had a different advantage. He had kind of what Duran had and Sonny Liston had and Mike Tyson had when they were at their best. Just something that came with them, a reputation, an influence over these fighters, that they were dealing with something special, something scary. Now listen, when you're fighting a great puncher or real fast guys, I get it. That's something to be wary of. And you are wary of it. And you're prepared for it. And these guys face those guys, right, Ken? They face those guys.
Yep.
But I'm talking about different here. I'm talking about something different. I'm talking about they're the boogeyman. That's what I'm talking about. That it's one thing that if you know you're fighting Frankenstein, when you're a kid, you're thinking, well, he's slow and he comes at you and he's scary, and Dracula, just make sure that Frankenstein don't get his hands on you, make sure Dracula doesn't bite you in the neck. Those guys all, I get it. But the boogeyman comes from the dark. Nobody really knows who he is. They just know he's the boogeyman. He's the boogeyman. And Khabib has that boogeyman about him. And so does Islam, where, again, it's almost mystical and mythical already. Now, he's got an advantage because he's following Khabib. It took Khabib his whole career to get that. And this guy's going to get it sooner because he's attached to that. But that's what I felt. When I was watching this, I felt not that Hooker was evaporated mentally or diminished mentally or damaged mentally, but put it this way, I think he felt different. I think they all feel different going in there with Khabib in the past and this guy now. They feel different because of the boogeyman effect.
Yep.
That there's something about these guys, the way they carry themselves, the way they look, the part of the world they come from, the way they're taught, where they have a reputation of being the best in that area. But more than just that, just a silent killer look, just something else that's going with them in the air. Yeah. And I felt that. Want to just say specialness? Okay, I felt that, specialness. And then when you have a great talent, we all know what his great talent is, same as Khabib, getting on the floor and getting those guys there. He feels he can't get beat there. Well, just like if you have, say, a great punch like Wilder. Wilder had a great, unfortunately, he didn't learn the things he needed to learn to go to, to completely bolster that and be put around that to supplement it. But if you have that power, and there was a period of time up until, the second fight with Fury, where Wilder had the power was one thing, but you had to have the delivery system. And you know what? It's the same thing in anything. And I saw that. I saw the same thing there. He had to have the delivery system to get to the floor, to where his strengths are, to where his power is, to where his advantage is. And he's developed that to his credit. I always say these guys that are great have to be smart. They have to be intellectual. And to his credit, Islam developed a delivery system where he'd throw that right hook, I think from the southpaw position, if my memory serves me right. He'd throw that right hook as a throwaway punch to the head, and then real quickly come in low for the shoot to get where he really wants to get. But that's his delivery system to get there, to ensure that he'll get there. To ensure what I've always talked about, it's about geography, that he'll get the geography that gives him an advantage, the geography that he needs to have the best chance to win. So he's got that delivery side. That's the first thing, me looking at the things analytically the way I do as a trainer, first thing that got my attention. And I tweeted it. I was surprised that my guys over there at the UFC headquarters didn't put it up. I feel a little bad sometimes. They used to put them up, I felt bad. I said, "Gee, you're not putting them up as much as you used to put them up." Oh my God, and I still love them, love all those guys. But I said, "Gee, maybe they'll put that." But Rob told me we had a huge reaction to those tweets, and I think that's because the people realize that these things are part of it. You could be the greatest grappler, the greatest wrestler, but you can't be if you're not on the floor in position to use those skills. So he has that delivery system. And I wanted to give him credit for it because it was terrific. And matter of fact, one of the commentators, I think it was DC, who's terrific also. I think they're all terrific. He did give him, I think, credit for that. But, or maybe it was Bisping. Bisping, yeah. Don't kill me. Don't kill me that I'm not Orson Welles of commentators over here. I'm not. and it just happens to be about one of the English brothers that I love so much, and that we have crumpets together. It wasn't purposeful. It wasn't any kind of malintent involved. It's just me not knowing how to pronounce my freaking words sometimes. But I know what I want to talk about, and it was just to respect him and give him credit, Islam, for developing that system to get to where he needs to get to. And boy, I've said it for years, only certain fighters have ever gotten to that place where they have supreme confidence, where they really believe there's no way on earth you can beat them. He's one of those rare guys that has that. He really has that, like Khabib did. And I think that's part of the boogeyman. That's part of the mythicism. That's part of the mystique. Part of what they inherit through osmosis, what they get taught, where they come from, and the way they're taught is that they do get to that place. They do get. It's not an accident. They do get fed that attitude, that belief that they can't lose, they can't be beat, and so. His conditioning, his strength, everything is superb, but he's got the delivery system to use those things, and I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that other element, that the special ones get. That that when Michael Jordan walked out on the floor, I'm sure that there were plenty of great basketball players, really good basketball players, that just felt a little air go out of the room when the great one, when the king walked out on that floor, and
yep.
same thing here. Once he got to the geography that he wanted, it kind of looks like the spider that gets the beetle onto his web.
Yeah.
That's
right.
like it's over. Like the poor beetle knows it. I'm getting eaten. You know what I mean? Like it's
like
over.
making a mistake on your taxes and the IRS sends you a letter. You know it's over. You're going to be in this quagmire for a long time. Even if you're dead right, you're wrong.
100%.
You're in the web.
You're in the web, and that's you're in the web, and the IRS or the beetle is the spider or the IRS. They got their teeth out, or whatever spiders have, whatever they are. They're ready to put them into you. They're ready to put them into you, and like I said, there ain't no getting out of that freaking thing.
Yep. Well, that brings us to the co-main, Cory Sandhagen and Petr Yan. Yan in action again after that disqualification against Aljamain Sterling. He lost his belt. Again, Petr Yan's like one of those Dagestani guys where he's just all business. Like something about him makes you nervous. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on this because as I was watching them fighting, Cory Sandhagen looked really good at times. I thought technically they were almost dead even, but there was something. Yan just seemed to be a little stronger, a little faster, and crack a little bit harder. And again, I thought technically they were close, but you could just see Yan was just like I don't know what, maybe just like I said, stronger, faster. I'm dying to hear your thoughts on this because Sandhagen had his opportunities, but Yan just seemed to never go away, like he was indestructible. And Sandhagen was marked up from body kicks and head kicks. I mean, he was taking shots that you could see it wearing on him, his body, his face. Yan just seemed to be like the Terminator, just kept coming.
Yeah, listen, pressure breaks pipes and it breaks people, and that's part of the game for Yan. Let's get that out of the way. But where I agree with you and I disagree, where I completely disagree with you, where I agree with you is they're both good technically in their realms, but they are two diverse guys technically. They couldn't be more diverse. Completely different guys technically, where one guy, Sandhagen's approach is to use his legs to move. He's very versatile. That's his strength. And he uses his legs and his reach. He's got good long arms to move, to control the outside of the parameters of the ring, if you will, to keep range, to use his legs defensively as well as offensively. Defensively, to keep a strong guy like Jan, which he is, off balance, and to also set up pot shot opportunities, combination opportunities while he's on the move, while he's on the go. So 2 different styles. And both of them good with their technique. His technique, again, Sandhagen, is to move, to pot shot, to box, and then every once in a while mix in a knee kick, and he shows good athleticism there. Great versatility.
You know who he reminds me of? He almost exactly, I think of every time I see him, is Dominic Cruz. He moves like him. He jumps around. He's like in and out, just like Dominic Cruz with the flying knees. And he's like you said, he's really versatile.
No, he is. He's very versatile. And he understands, again, what his ideas, his identity. It's very important for a person in any business, in every act of life, any vocation, to know what they are, to understand what their identity is. And in fighting, no different. You got to understand what's your identity. You're a guy going to walk a guy down. You're a guy who's going to set traps. You're a guy who's going to move and use his legs. What's your identity? And he understands his identity, and he uses it consistently. And he did a really good, he came well prepared for what he was facing. He knew exactly what he had to do because he knew exactly what he was facing. And like I said, he used the ring. He fought to keep Jan off balance, to use his length to keep separation. When I say length, I mean reach with his hands, his arms. And Jan is a steady, solid guy whose strength is to put pressure on you, to wear you down, and to use timing to negate speed, where sometimes Sandhagen might have been a little quicker with his punches on the outside, where Jan started to change that fight by getting in position and timing some of those shots. Really good at throwing them at the right time. Accurate time shots. And the other strength of Jan, and it goes hand in hand with what his temperament is, what his style is. The style of Sandhagen is to box, to move. So he's got to have good legs. He's got to have good agility. He's got to have long arms to take advantage of being on the outside. Jan, to press somebody and to time somebody, he needs legs too, but in a different way. He needs legs where he can walk a guy down, where he can get in position, and where he's always balanced, where he's never out of position, where he's never reaching, where he's never off balance. He's always set, kind of like Inoue. I give Inoue a lot of credit a lot of times for this, but I'll do it again. I don't care. Inoue, the Japanese champion, world champion, who's already won titles. He's undefeated, of course. He's already won world titles at 3 different weight divisions. And he's already in the pound for pound list. For me, he's way up on the pound for pound. He's probably in the top 3 already, 3 or 4 pound for pound in the world. So it reminds me of Inoue, where Inoue is always balanced. He's always in position with his legs to throw hard, meaningful punches. And that's Jan. He's always balanced and in position, Ken, to throw hard, effective, meaningful punches. And he won the fight it was a close fight. And he won the fight by throwing the harder, or landing and throwing the harder, more effective punches. Doing more damage. Doing a little more damage. Or landing the more telling punches, the more effective punches, whichever way you want to verbalize it. And he understood what he was going to deal with. He had to cut the ring down. He had to be consistent. He had to be steady. He had to be reliable. He had to, just keep at it, where he's gonna slow the guy down. And he got to that point where the pressure Sandhagen down, where he could time him with more shots, where he could get to geography again that he needed. His geography was to be close. Sandhagen's geography quest was to try to keep separation, to try to be at a distance. And they both were successful, really. It's just that Jan was a little more successful. But having said that, what really made it a great fight, and really what makes you tip your hat to Sandhagen, is after all that, and that pressure, and dealing with all of that, he won the 5th round. He pulls himself together, son of a gun. He pulls himself together, and he goes out there looking like he was maybe starting to be controlled, dominated is too strong a word, but controlled. And then all of a sudden, the 5th round, he goes out there and he gets to boxing. He gets to getting full extension, and again, which he had early in a round. But he got back to doing it, and he won that round. But Jan had the lead, and I thought the decision went the right way because he did more damage. But I got to give them, both of them, a lot of credit. And great fight, tremendous, like I said, in the last round for Sandhagen at that point, after 20 minutes, to go out there and do what he had to do and win a round like he did. The thing that I thought Jan did wrong in that round, and in the rounds where he got outboxed a little bit, was when he didn't use the jab enough. The jab is so important for 2 reasons when you're a guy like Jan. One is when the guy's outside pot-shotting, Ken, the jab of yours will stabilize him. It will control him. It will keep him from dominating. Give him something to think about. Give him a taste of his own medicine. And it's so important to use that jab with those kind of guys. He wasn't using his jab, Jan, enough in those spots. And another reason why, if you're the Jan and you're obviously a little shorter, in your stature and in your physical size, you're a little shorter, you want to get close. There's no better way to press than behind the jab, to keep the guy from pot-shotting you, to keep, like I used to say on ESPN, I'm sure somebody's probably saying it now. They might be using that term now. But anyway, the way I used to say was put bugs on the guy's windshield. What did I mean by that? I meant the jab. The jab is putting bugs on a guy's windshield where it's hard for him to get vision, to have clear vision, to see you coming. The bugs on the windshield is the jab. And that's what Jan needed to do when he was pressing in the 5th round. Press behind the jab. Don't just press. Press behind the jab. Put bugs on the windshield of Sandhagen where it's harder for him to catch you, counter you, time you, whatever the freak you want to call it, coming in. But that's both of them were just tremendous. It was a great fight. I feel, in summing this one up, I feel that Sandhagen, that was for the interim title. I felt that Sandhagen, when he gets to these moments to be a champion, he's really good. But the guys that he at that next level, and the guy that in this was his first title, but when he's at that top place, the guys that he comes in second to are really tremendous. They're great. They're special. They're really good. He doesn't lose to guys good. He loses only to the guys really good. And for me, that was the case where he was good enough to be a world champion if he had a little bit more luck in the draw of who was going to be there that night for the title. He's good enough, but he ain't quite good enough when it's somebody that, in other words, to beat him, you got to be special. And I feel that Sandhagen right now, for me, is kind of a little bit of a gatekeeper in the way that if you want to be champion, you can get past this guy, you deserve to be champion.
Yeah.
And he's that gatekeeper, and I think he's going to one day be more than a gatekeeper. I think he's going to go through that gate himself. I feel, because at the end of the day, all of this will get him to that place. All of this experience, all of the things that you go through and that you can learn when you have the right attitude. And he has the right attitude. You can see it. He's going to wind up relinquishing that title as gatekeeper one day and going through the freaking gate and being a world champion himself. But I wanted to say it that way, and I felt that's what I saw.
Well, before we get into the main event, Teddy, I just want to take a quick minute to give a shout out to my favorite insurance company. And these guys insure my most important asset, me, Athletic Greens. Shout out to these guys. I love them. As you know, I've been taking this stuff every day for the last several years. I travel with it. I take these travel packs everywhere I go. These guys spend 10 years with top doctors and nutritionists getting this formula right. It tastes good. It's good for you. And again, I consider it like an insurance policy for my body's immunity and overall health. Never go anywhere without them. Honestly, if you go to Athletic Greens now, use the promo code ATLAS, ATLAS at checkout. They'll give you 10 free travel packs with your first order. Awesome value. Can't say enough good things about these guys. And honestly, I never go a day without it. If people ask me all the time, what do you take for training here, there? If there was one thing I took that I would tell you to take, it would be Athletic Greens. I take it every single day. And look, we all have our top priority and responsibility every day should be to our own health. And that goes above everything else, because without your health, you're useless to anyone else. So if you don't take care of your top responsibility, you're doing yourself and everyone around you a disservice. So shout out Athletic Greens. Check them out. Use the promo code ATLAS, ATLAS, for special offer. Thanks, Athletic Greens, for being with us. Love having you on the team. Teddy, let's talk about the main event. Oh my God, Glover Teixeira gets the upset victory over Jan Blachowicz. When I first moved to Westchester from New York City, when I had my third son, we moved out to the country, and my landscaper was a Brazilian guy, and he knew I liked fights, watching the UFC, and he said to me, "Oh, one of my guys on my crew is Glover Teixeira." And I couldn't help but to think about that as he was standing there at 42, the new light heavyweight champion of the world in the UFC. It was like landscaping in Westchester, 12, 13 years ago. Even then he was, in his prime, and now at 42 years old to win the title. Man, it was so awesome to see. Super happy for him. Both very nice guys. Hard to root against Jan, but man, it was nice to see Glover get the win, and two awesome sportsmen after the fight congratulating each other. It was fun to see. How'd you like it?
When I watched that, I watched George Foreman. That's what I saw. I saw George Foreman. George Foreman won the heavyweight title at 45. Teixeira does something so difficult, so almost impossible. He wins, and doesn't only win it at 42, wins it against a tremendous champion, a guy who had beaten the great Adesanya, when Adesanya, of course, moved up in weight, to do something that shows you how special Adesanya is, that he had not just the courage, they all have courage, but he had it inside him to want to move up, to take that challenge, to find out. And a lot of guys wouldn't have moved up from middleweight to light heavyweight. Adesanya does that. He got beat by Blachowicz, and only because of how good Blachowicz is. So Teixeira didn't only do something extraordinary at 42, he did something extraordinary at 42 against somebody extraordinary. And I mean, Blachowicz, when I say George Foreman, because George Foreman did it at 45, but also because of the power and the punch. I mean, George, he could hit a tree and take it out of its roots. Same thing for Blachowicz. I mean, the old timers would say he hit you on top of the head, fracture your ankles. Blachowicz is that kind of puncher. And Teixeira beat that guy. And so it was just a great feel-good story and fight. It really, really was. As you said, sportsmanship. I mean, where do you see Teixeira after the first round? Well, he's got he's got Blachowicz on the floor, on the ground, on his back, and what does he do? He helps him up, and then he goes back to try to kill him. But he helps him up. I mean, you talk about sportsmanship. Take a look at that fight. All of yous out there, just tremendous respect and just tremendous, just two savages that happen to be gentlemen too. Savages in their realm, but real gentlemen as people.
I saw a video the night before the fight. They were both happened to be in the same restaurant in where was it, Abu Dhabi, and Jan came over and gave Glover a Polish beer that he brought for him as a birthday present. Said something like, "You can drink it after the fight," and gave it to him. And they were like, night before the fight. It was awesome to see. I saw the video posted on Instagram.
It doesn't take away any of their competitiveness, any of their, their commitment to destroying the other guy. Yeah. What made it special was knowing what was at stake. It was the last shot for Teixeira, the guy that was a landscaper,
Definitely.
the guy that was a landscaper, as you said, Ken, a guy that, thank God you never told him he didn't cut the hedges properly. Thank God. Ken, please, I wouldn't have to show with my partner I want to have it with right now. Thank God you didn't say your pruning is a little to be, questioned here. Oh yeah, how about I prune your head? So thank God for that. That's you always were a gentleman, and thank God. The thing that made it extra was, again, knowing that this guy, this beast of a man who had been dedicated to this business for 20 years. This was going to be, he had one title shot before. This was going to be his last title shot. This was going to be it. This was it. Lights out after this. Knowing that that's on the line, that you're not getting another go around. And to know that was at stake, I felt it. And he had that advantage. I think that's an advantage you can't quantify. You really can't quantify it. They're both prepared. They're both strong. They're both this. They're both, I get it. He's tremendous on the mat. Tremendous. Matter of fact, in the first round, I tweeted that this is savage chess. They're on the mat, but they're playing chess, getting moves, making little moves, the technique involved, everything on the floor. This is savage chess on the floor. Like when you go to a resort when you were a kid, and if you were lucky enough to go to some kind of resort or someplace with your parents, and outside they had the dartboard and they had all those different kind of festivities to play, but you also had the giant chessboard. Remember that, Ken? The giant chessboard with the giant chess pieces bigger than you. And And you could walk out on the floor of that, and you could move the chess pieces around on the floor while you're standing there. Well, that's what this was. They were moving these giant chess pieces around on the floor in that first round. They weren't just laying on each other. They were looking for an edge. They were looking for any kind of advantage they could get. So you got that the first round, and you got the geography playing in there again. You got Teixeira getting where he wants. He's got the edge down there. I would say probably that Blachowicz has the edge standing up. And he gets dominated pretty much. He gets kept on the floor, Blachowicz, the first round. He's kept on the floor where Teixeira wants to keep him. And I think it was so important because he sent a message. He sent the message right out of the gate that I'm gonna get what I want. I'm gonna be the boss. I'm gonna be the champion when this night's over, and I'm gonna be the boss tonight. And I'm gonna be where I want to be, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm going to instill my will, my physicality over you. I am. It's gonna be what I want it to be. And he sent the message. I can put you where I want to put you. That's an important message to get out of the gate. And he does that. And then Blachowicz showing the great champion that he is. The second round, he adjusts. He's standing up and he's having success. He's throwing combinations. He's landing good, solid, getting really affecting Teixeira. He's keeping enough range. He's neither one of these guys would be called Twinklefoot. You know what I mean? I mean, these guys are guys that are, these guys aren't floating around, like a butterfly, but they're setting their feet, and he's keeping range with his feet really set solid, and he's getting off at the right range. He's getting off, he being obviously Blachowicz, he's getting off combinations, good shots, and he's doing what he has to do to change the course of what happened in the first round. Choosing the right geography, the right location, to go about his business, to get control of this fight that he didn't have in the first round. And he's doing well because that's where he knew that he needed to be and what he needed to do. And he had the intellect to do that, the calm to do that, the will to do that, and he was doing it. And then what happens? Teixeira, well, that's part of why he's a champ. He shows that he can deal with that too. And he times him. Timing beats speed. Remember that. He gets in position, and he times Blachowicz with a beautiful straight right hand on the chin. And then followed by a left hook. And the left hook drops him. The left hook gets him back on the floor, where now Teixeira can get back to where he's got the advantage and get the title. And, get the submission, which he worked to get that, and he got it. But what I touched on when I started talking about this fight was it was more than just, both guys are serious guys, serious demeanor, especially Teixeira, very serious demeanors, and very strong guys. Strong guys. Matter of fact, you can see it. They're kind of like, when I look at guys that they don't necessarily, go in the weight room to get their strength. They just have this strength, like rugby players. You look at a rugby player, like the great champion Volkanovski that we had on the air not too long ago in an interview. And he was very honest. If you people haven't seen that interview, you should go watch it. And you understand what goes on in the mind of these great gladiators when they're in there. And they refuse to submit, even though it looks like they have to submit. Well, they don't. They change the rules. They make their own rules up. And Volkanovski, of course, was a rugby player, and he's got that kind of physicality. And that's what these guys look like. The guys that, it's not from weights, it's just from doing things that create this strength since you were young. The kind of work you do, the genetics that you have. You just have almost like a natural strength that goes beyond what you can get in the gym. And on top of that, I felt that Teixeira went in there with that advantage, that's something special, being that this was going to be his last shot. Very similar to Wilder in the fight with Fury. I understand Wilder lost. I picked Wilder in that fight, but what I really did was I picked him to have a real chance to win against a guy who was much better than him. Much better. And that's not the case with Blachowicz and Teixeira. Don't get confused what I'm saying. They're both very good. There was no big advantage there except on the mat. But Fury had a huge advantage of knowing how to fight over Wilder. But yet I still pick Wilder. Why? I just picked him. Obviously, I know he has that great erase to the right hand that can get rid of a lot of sins, a lot of mistakes real quick. But I picked him for one reason, that he would give himself a chance to endure, to last, to overcome and to find a way to have a chance to win. And I was right. He lost. But what was that thing that I took him, that reason I took him, that gave him the chance to endure, to last, and to have a chance to find a way to win? It was because, like I said at the time, in a Rocky III movie, where Rocky's getting ready to fight Clubber Lang, his greatest test, his greatest challenge, maybe his only real challenge ever. And Mickey doesn't want him to fight him. And Rocky says, why not? I'm the best. I'm the champion of the world. I beat everybody. Look at all these guys. You didn't. You beat setups. You beat guys that were setups. You beat guys that were handpicked. And now all of a sudden he's thinking, was I ever champion? Was I ever really champion, or did I just beat guys that were, as Mickey says, were handpicked? Was I ever champion? Can I walk down the street and ever feel like a champion? Can I look in the mirror and ever see a champion look back at? Was I ever champion? Or were all those guys I beat just a bunch of bowling pins that were lined up for me to knock over? Because I had a bowling ball in my right hand. And because of that, he was fighting for something special. He was fighting for his identity. He was fighting for who he freaking was. Not for a title, not for a purse, but for something much, 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 much more than that. And I'm fighting right here with my back killing me while I do this. But that's okay. That's what we do. We fight. We fight! And he was fighting, again, for something much bigger. To be able to know who he was. And Wilder showed that. And that's why he got up. That's why he came that close and dropped Fury twice in one round and came that close to being right. That's what kept him in the fight. That's what pulled him. That's what drove him. That's what gave him a chance that night. Well, the same thing. Not in the way that he had fought setups, because nobody fights setups in the UFC, but in the way that he knew this was his last chance to ever be called champion. After being a landscaper, busting his freaking rear end as a landscaper as he was training for UFC, 20 years in this freaking brutal business, all the scars, all the everything, the cuts, the scars, the bruises, all of that. After 20 years of that, this was his last chance to make it right, to make it worthwhile. You know those scars that these UFC guys have, the ears, the on their eyelid, on their eyebrows, everything. You know what? They look a lot better when you look at them when you're champion.
That's for sure.
They look a lot better. You don't regret one of them. You don't regret one of them. Because you know where it got you. It got you to where you wanted to be. It got you to be a world champion and called a world champion the rest of your life. That's what he was fighting for. That last chance to be what he took all those scars to be, a champion. His last shot for it. He had that hovering over him, and I felt it. I really did. But as they were getting ready, I said, oh, my God. I heard the announcer say, one of them say, he's a 3-1 dog. I said, oh, that's a good, I wish I had the phone number for my bookie, because I just had a feeling.
If we can teach you about the internet, you could have made the bet right on your phone.
You're right.
I digress.
It's costing me money. It's costing me money. I need to learn that. And I just felt it. You know, you get those feelings sometimes.
Yeah.
Ken, I just felt like, I know the other guy's 3-1 favorite. I know why. He's younger. He's tremendous. He's all the things I just said he was. But I just said, soon as I heard, I just saw him walking in there, the way he walked in there. And then I heard him say that this is his last shot, obviously, second title shot. He's been in the game 20 years. And I look at him. I just looked at his, I don't know, It was just the seriousness, the steadfastness in his face, in his eyes. And then I heard he's a 3-1 underdog. I said, oh my God, he's going to win this fight. He's gonna win this fight because he's got what I just described that Wilder had going for him, even though Wilder didn't pull it off. Wilder gave himself a chance where otherwise he wouldn't have had a chance because he was searching for something else. And I said, this guy is in a different position than Wilder. Wilder wasn't good enough technically and quite frankly, physically in the other areas, except for the right hand, in the other areas that Fury was. This guy, Teixeira, was. He was equal in all the areas. And he had this. He had this. He had the last chance in his life to be somebody. Now understand what I just said. I'm not saying that the rest of his life he wouldn't have been nobody. I'm not saying that. But he only wanted to be one freaking thing. He wanted to be a champion. That's why he was a landscaper. He didn't want to be a landscaper. He was a freaking landscaper because that's how he could be a UFC fighter. Because he had to make money somewhere while he wasn't making money and while he was paying his dues to be a UFC champion someday. He didn't want to be a landscaper. He had to do that. But he wanted to be a champion. And this was his last chance to be that. His last chance to be that. And he wasn't going to be denied. He wasn't going to get out of that freaking ring. And like he said so beautifully, so eloquently, for the big animal that he is, so eloquently, he said afterwards in a post-fight interview, said, how did you do this? What? He goes, I knew. This is my house. My house. I've lived in this house for 20 years. I know where every speck of blood is. You got to love it. He looked at the floor, and I remember in a couple fights prior to that, somebody got cut, and I remember seeing when they had a camera shot on the canvas, I remember taking note in my head that the blood was all over the canvas. And so he's literally looking at what I had seen on the obviously in the pictures earlier, and he's looking and he's saying, this is my house. I live in this house. I've lived in this house for 20 years. I know where every speck of blood is in this house. And he did. He said, I'm comfortable in this house. And I wasn't leaving this house without what's mine. What's mine. And that was it. That was it. Everything else. But that was it. That was the extra, that's the extra thing. That thing. That was that thing that we all strive for. That we all strive for. That thing that gnaws at us, that we think it annoys us. It doesn't annoy us. It prepares us. It ensures us. It looks out for us. For all of you out there, that was a beautiful lesson. For everybody out there that believed that at one time they had a destiny for something special and they committed to it, and then they started doubting if they ever did have a destiny. They started wondering, did I ever have a destiny? Yeah, you did. It's up to you to not give up on it too soon, because it's your destiny for it to take this long. It was his destiny for it to take 20 years. That was it, Ken. That was his journey. Somebody's journey, some people's journey is shorter. Some are longer. That was his destiny. It's like you're going down a road, right? And you want to get somewhere. It's your destiny. It's your journey. You want to get somewhere. And suddenly a freaking giant tree falls right in front of your path. And guess what? It holds you up. And when at the end of the day, with all the time that it took to remove that tree, to get that tree out of your path so you could continue your journey towards your destiny, with all that time, you start to think it's not your destiny. You start to think that, it took too much time. The time that I lost doing this, it kept me, it kept me from my destiny. It's gonna deter me from my journey. No, it's not. No, it's not. You know what it's going to do? The muscles that you develop picking up that freaking tree, that you didn't think you were going to have to pick up on your journey, that you think just wasted time. The muscles you developed in picking up that tree to clear the path are the muscles that you're going to use down the road to fulfill your destiny. And you never knew it. If you didn't pick up that tree, you wouldn't have been strong enough down the road to get to where you wanted to get and to accomplish your mission, your goal, your destiny. That's how you got to think. That's the truth. And that's my message to all of you. It was already given by somebody better than me, a guy named Teixeira, a guy named Champion. But I would just fill it in. Like I said, the first day I started this podcast with my good friend Ken now, I said I wanted to be more than just delivering news and obviously opinion and strategy of fight, and understand better in depth what these fighters, these gladiators, these warriors go through, to understand more than just the ABCs of it, more than the X's and O's of it, to understand what's really at stake, at risk, what's really behind all this. But at the end of the day, I said I hope to use this podcast as a way of connecting the dots in life, in a fight that we're all in. And for me, today was another opportunity to connect those dots because of the champion Teixeira, what he did and how he did it and how he got there. It was special.
Yep. Well, speaking of great champions, congratulations again to Glover Teixeira, and let's turn our attention to boxing. And we've got the current king of at least pay-per-view king, the great Canelo Alvarez, in action this coming Saturday night against Nashville's own Caleb Plant. Caleb, a big underdog in this one. You wouldn't know it. Listen to him talk. He sounds very confident. I like Caleb. I hope he does well, but he's in tough this weekend against the Golden Goose, Canelo Alvarez. What are you looking for in this one, Teddy?
I'll get past the first part of the movie for those people that sometimes want to see the end of the movie. I'll get past the previews and go right to the end of the movie. If you want to know what's going to happen, just go back and watch Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders. I think it's a repeat. I think it's as close a repeat as you could get. I think that Plant is very similar to Saunders, except Saunders might have been more physical, a little bit stronger, but same sort of style, maybe mentality. Maybe Plant is a little quicker. But at the end of the day, both guys that made their living basically boxing, being technically sound in pretty much all areas, but not. And I said the same thing when I picked Canelo to knock out Saunders, to beat Saunders. A lot of people were getting on me saying, oh no, Saunders is going to pull it off. Saunders is going to blah, 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 whatever. I'm not right all the time. We know that. But when I break down a fight, you know what I feel like, Ken? I feel like, obviously there's no guarantees. I'm not giving anyone a guarantee to go to my bookie and say, okay, put the house down. No, I'm not ever doing that. But for me, my job is to give them a roadmap of what it'll take to get there, to make them an informed better, to give them all the information to make them as informed as possible, to have a map of where the freak they're going. You know, at the end of the day, they might wind up in Oshkosh. I don't know. I mean, without navigation, I'd be freaking dead. I'd be dead. And somebody has to put it in my car, by the way. I can't even put it myself. Somebody's got to come in. Where you want to go, Ted? All right, let me type this in. Ba-boop, beep, bop, ba-boop, beep, beep. And they type it in, and guess what? I'm okay. As long as somebody doesn't call me and talk to me, and then I make that right-hand turn in 300 feet, and damn it, that was 200 feet ago. Damn it. I'm lost again. But that's for me, that's my job. Just to give you a map of what you should be looking out for. And it's identical to what I said in the analysis and the lead up to Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders. I said that Saunders is the kind of guy like Plant that is technically good in probably almost every area. He's got pretty good legs. He's got pretty good form with his punches. He's got decent speed. He's not terribly slow. He's got he knows how to box on the outside. He knows how to counter. He knows how to fight inside if he has to. He's a guy that's pretty well rounded and situated and pretty much kind of checks all the boxes you would want to check to call yourself a proficient, decent boxer. But there's one thing. As well-rounded and proficient as he is, in pretty much every area, the one thing that Saunders was not and Plant is not, neither one of them is great in one area. See, that's the problem. They're all pretty good in one area, in all areas, but none of them are great in one area. And when you want to beat a guy like Canelo, you probably got to be great or pretty damn close to it in one area to beat a guy who is very good, if not great, in a couple areas. You have to be great in at least one area to beat that guy. At the end of the day, anything that they can do, Canelo can deal with at a better level, at a higher level. And again, if you want to be the store, you want to be that store that's better than Macy's, better than Gimbel's, better than, I don't even know if Gimbel's around anymore, better than Bloomingdale's. You better have a store that has one department in it, Ken, that's better, at least as good, if not better, than some of their departments. At least one. Oh, as a store, you don't have to have all of them, but you better have one department where you have better quality product than them. One. Just one department. Otherwise, you got no shot over Macy's, over Bloomingdale's. Well, I don't think that Plant has a shot over Macy's or Canelo because he doesn't have that one department where you can kind of wrap your hopes around and say, okay, I can win a fight if I'm good enough in this one department. If I concentrate in this one department, I can win the fight. I can hurt him. I can outspeed him. I can out-finesse him. But they don't have that one department. You know, they're both decent defensively, Canelo and Billy Joe. They were both decent. They don't go out there and say, hey, come on, hit me. But they're not a ghost in a ring. I'm not saying you have to be complete ghost, but maybe you have to be Casper, the friendly ghost, a little bit. Because if he can find you, if he can hit you, he's got a good chance at this point in his career of doing damage and getting rid of you. I think that the game plan will be the same as it was for Saunders. Box on the outside, keep him off balance, Plant. Keep Canelo off balance, box on the outside, outsmart him, outmaneuver him. And don't get trapped on the ropes, Don't stand in front too long. Do all those things. I just think somewhere along the line, the great Joe Louis, they can run, but they can't hide. I just think somewhere along the line, Canelo will have his moment. And I think it'll probably be to the body. Because even if you box well, the one place that you can hit somebody is the body. And if somebody's got good legs, Plant has decent legs, he's going to have to show that. Well, going to the body can sometimes take those legs away. Take the air out of the tires, like I often used to say when I was going to fights at ESPN. Now someone else is probably saying it. Where take some air out of the radials and slow the guy down a little bit. Canelo's good with that left hook and the right hand to the body. He'll look to take some air out of the radials. I think the key to the fight, though, is for Canelo to use his jab. Forget about the body for a second. He's got to use, because if Plant does what I think he's going to do and what he should do probably, and what gives him the best chance to be successful, boxes on the outside, the jab is so important. Everyone looks at the jab of the guy who has the jab as being important, like Muhammad Ali. You have to jab if you're fighting, Joe Frazier or whoever. Somebody with a real good jab, you have to jab to beat Mike Tyson. But the guy on the other side of the equation, in this case, whoever it is fighting, say, Tyson, that guy being Tyson, the guy who's going to press, the guy who's going to deal with the jab and have to overcome the jab, it's important for that guy to use his jab to at least make the guy honest, to give him something to think about, something to worry about, and something to keep him busy, something so he can't dominate you with the jab. So it's very important to me for Canelo to use that jab to stabilize Plant on the outside, to keep him from having a jabbing party, to keep him from dominating with the jab, to keep him from just keeping him where he wants to keep him, to close the gap, to keep him honest, to keep him from pot-shotting. Because if Canelo's not jabbing, Plant's going to look to pot-shot, which Saunders did in spots effectively until he finally wore him down and broke him down and got to him. So the jab is really important for Canelo. Obviously, it's important for Plant, I know. But it's really important for Canelo not to just walk in and look for one shot. If he does that, then Plant's got as good a chance as he could have. But I just see Canelo using his jab to stabilize him. Plant, control him from pot-shotting, control him from having his way, track him down, and eventually stop him around the 9th round, 10th round with a body shot.
Let me ask you this before we go any further. For the guys at MyBookie, if you're going to place a bet on this fight, please go to MyBookie. Use the promo code ATLAS for a 50% credit on your first deposit, up to $1,000. We love the guys at MyBookie. They've got lines on everything. But Teddy, the line on this fight is Canelo minus 1,000, plus 500 on Caleb. Do you like Canelo enough to lay 10-1 odds?
I don't know if I like anyone, and I don't know if I like you enough to lay 10-1 odds. And I like you a lot. I like you a lot.
All right,
I don't know.
Let me try this
because
one.
anything can happen. Anything can happen. Cut. Things can come out of the sky suddenly. Go ahead.
All right, let me ask you this one. Over under 9.5. Under is plus 105. Over is minus 125.
I would give me the odds again.
9.5 rounds. So halfway through the 10th. Plus 105 for the under, minus 125 for the over.
I take a venture on the under.
I'm with you.
I take a venture on the under. And I'll tell you one other thing. I've talked about the other fights, about something in the ass, something special, that X factor, that intangible. I'll tell you what the intangible here is, Ken. This fight might have been won or lost. Might have been lost already. It could be. It could have been won. It could have been lost. Maybe neither. But when they did that press conference and Canelo shoved him and then he came back with the punch, Plant came back with the punch. When Canelo slipped that punch and then countered back and wound up cutting him his glasses, whatever it was, but he came back with the counter. He might have won the fight right there. Put it this way, he might have made the odds go up to 1,000 to what it is now. I don't think they were that high at the time. I really don't. But he might have made the odds go up because he might have made it more difficult for Plant to win, because one of the intangibles, one of the X factors that you can't quantify physically, but it's there. To pull off an upset, you have to have belief you can pull off the upset. You got to have that confidence, that belief. A lot of times you'll talk to a guy that pulls off a humongous upset like Buster Douglas with Tyson, 30-1 underdog. And afterwards he said, I always knew I was going to win. And they believed it. You have to have that belief. Some of that belief might have been lost at that moment. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's part of the battle. Put it this way. The hill that he's climbing, Plant, it got a little higher. It got a little steeper when that happened. To overcome that. To make sure that doesn't interfere with his mindset, the psychology that he has to have going into this fight. That became a part of it. That suddenly played into it. That happened. You know, sometimes you could be in the locker room and you can lose a fight. You could just lose a fight in the locker room. You could lose a fight walking to the ring. Something psychologically just goes awry. It just gets twisted. So you remember something. You think of something. You see something. And believe it or not, that can happen. Does it happen to the great ones? No. But it can happen to a guy who wants to know if he could be great, that hasn't found out if he can be great yet. Sometimes, and it might play in.
Yeah, and to your point, he opened at a minus 900 and grew to minus 1,000 possibly after that press conference. But yeah, that'll be an interesting one. So please, guys, check out my book. If you're going to bet on the fight, bet responsibly. Use the promo code ATLAS, ATLAS, when you open a new account, and they'll give you a 50% credit up to $1,000 on your first deposit. And speaking of my bookie.
Hey, listen, let me say one thing before you finish with that. I'm going to just put this out there since you're talking about my bookie and stuff, that for those guys that want to take a chance on the other side of Plant, is there a possibility that what happened at the press conference, is there a possibility that could play the opposite way, where Canelo could be overconfident now, thinking that this guy's nothing, that I just spanked him. I just spanked him and sent him home crying, in his mind. And that, even though he didn't send him home crying, but I'm just saying that he might be thinking, this fight's over. And just let up enough, or take for granted enough, where he doesn't need his jab. He could just walk in there and end the night. Just maybe that could play too. Go ahead, Ken. Go to it.
One other thing before we sign off that got announced, and I was just thinking about it because I was looking at it on my bookie, is Jake Paul has announced his next opponent, Tommy Fury, brother of the heavyweight champion Tyson Fury. They're going to fight late December, I think, down at Tampa Bay, and they're almost even. Fury's minus 125, Jake Paul at minus 115. I know that this won't be the greatest display of boxing skills, but this will be a big draw, and people do like to go to these events, myself included, and I know that they'll want to hear your opinion on this. So what's your initial thoughts at this matchup? Tommy Fury, I think he's 7 or 8-0. Jake Paul 4-0.
Listen, I give Jake Paul credit that he found a way to make money. He's doing it the American way. He's found an honest way to make money, and he believed in what he was doing, and he went out there and he learned as much as he could learn, and continues to do that with that attitude in boxing. He didn't disrespect the sport. A lot of people think he did. He didn't disrespect. He's going on to a different aspect of the sport, if you will. It's not boxing in the realm of, with the competition being the competition that it is when you turn on usually a a fight or boxing match of, it's obviously he's picking guys that weren't boxers. He's picking guys that were MMA guys and, different guys like that. But one of them was a basketball player. And then he did a good job with Woodley. Obviously was a champion UFC fighter and a decent striker. But the thing that I give him credit for is he respected the sport enough to go out there and get a trainer and to work his backside off to try to get as good as he could. And then he's being smart. He's picking his spots, and he found a way to make money. You can't really knock a guy for that. And again, for the people that say he's disrespecting the sport or he's diminishing the sport, no, he's not. He's found a different dimension, a different outlet. He found a different forum to do what he's doing. It's a whole separate forum that he's kind of invented in a way. I mean, he brought back celebrity boxing that used to be around 20 years ago, but he brought it to a higher level or a higher, being with the internet, with the social media, he was able to bring it to a much different level and a lot more money. So it's not boxing. It's a different wing of it. It's a different dimension. It's a different outlet of it, where he's choosing his guys, and he's a guy that is learning on the job, learning with these fights. And he's fighting a guy now wasn't an MMA guy, wasn't a basketball player. Listen, the guy Fury is not Godzilla. He's not his brother, obviously Tyson Fury. But he's a guy who had about 12 amateur fights. That's not a lot, but it's more than Paul had. And he's had about what Ken, 7 or 8 pro fights now, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think it's 7, whatever it is. So he's had 7 or 8 pro fights, 12 amateurs, somewhere in that neighborhood. And he's a guy that is going to be a little bit of a different animal for Paul. In a way, again, he's not fighting, he's not fighting Tyson Fury, or even Ty Fury. If you want to. But take a few letters off there. But he's fighting a guy who did consider himself a fighter, who does consider himself a fighter with his background, his heritage, where he comes from. That he didn't turn pro to be for this to happen. He turned pro thinking that his career, if he had one, would be just strictly in boxing. And now this opportunity, because of his name and his what's going on with Paul, the attraction, just the phenomena that's there now with these matches, that he could fit in and make more money than he ever dreamed he could make, and make it so fast. Having said all of that, I don't take for granted and dismiss Paul, because he's been pretty damn smart in picking his opponents. He sees something and he picks them. Pretty damn smart. No different than Mayweather, who, of course, one of the great fighters. Believe me, I'm not trying to compare him in a boxing way to Mayweather. But Mayweather was smart in picking his opponents, especially later in his career. And nobody really knocked him for it. He was pretty damn smart picking his spots. And so I don't know that he should be knocked for picking his opponents. And he's been picking them pretty damn good. Maybe he made a little mistake here because of what I just described. The other guy has the mentality of a boxer, not an MMA guy, not a basketball player. And he's got more experience in that realm, obviously, for the first time than anybody who's getting in the ring with Paul. Or has gotten in the ring with Paul up to this point. So right now I would favor Fury. One thing that hurts him, he's not a big puncher, but he's more developed in the realm of boxing. He's a little more developed, and it's going to be interesting. You know, I was a little surprised when I heard it because I thought, what's the attraction here with Fury? Like, I saw the attraction with Woodley. I saw the attraction with the basketball player, that he's a basketball player, that Woodley was an MMA fighter, that Askren was an MMA champion. I saw that draw, but I was thinking Fury hasn't done anything to really get you out there to say, oh, you know, he's part of the attraction. He's part of the pull that pulls me in. But the name, I guess, attached to Tyson Fury and Paul just being where he is now, where people want to see how far this goes. And when this balloon gets punctured and crashes to earth, you know, he's got people like Ali used to have. Ali used to say, half the people come to the arena to see me get killed, half the people come to see me win, but all of them come, and they all pay. There's no freebies. So he's doing that. He's doing that. And at the end of the day, if I had to make a quick pick for my bookie, which I don't, but if I did, I would probably favor and say there's a reason exactly for what I just broke down. For me, at least in my mind, for what I know about this business, they have the right guy, the favorite, Fury.
Interesting. Well, it'll be interesting to see how that line moves over the coming weeks leading up to that fight in, I think it's December 18th, if I'm not mistaken. But Teddy, this was a good one today. We covered a lot. And I appreciate you doing this. I will see you in New York this coming weekend. We've got a lot to cover. Tons of fight action coming up this weekend. Big UFC card, as we've discussed already. Canelo and Caleb Plant. So we'll have a lot to break down.
Oh, yeah, 100%, Ken. And I just want to use that moment. You just reminded me of it. Thank you. Where people are going to be for the lookout because you're coming in. We're going to do a fight plan.
Yep.
On the Porter Crawford fight, which is a very interesting fight. I have Crawford my number one pound for pound guy in the world right now. So yeah. It's gonna be interesting because I used the term gatekeeper earlier. Porter's a gatekeeper for the welterweight division. For sure. He is. You know, he's only lost twice. He's lost to top guys and. To Spencer Thurman. Thurman at the time was definitely a top guy, and he's competitive with everybody. He's a truck that just trucks on, and he tests people. He tests people with their will. Obviously, physically he tests them, but mentally he tests them because he's that ocean that keeps coming to the shore, pounding away, wave after wave. So it's going to be very. It's going to be interesting, and we're doing a fight plan on it. So just letting the people know ahead of time to be on the lookout for that fight plan, and for Ken having really good legs in that fight plan because he would have by that time. You would have run the marathon by then, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and he'll be and I might have to call him champion that day.
That's the plan. Well, listen, thanks for doing this, Teddy. It was great seeing you as always. And guys, thanks for being with us. Please subscribe to the channel, share the links. You know the drill. Thank you for being with us, and everyone have a great week.